ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaskar, my dear friends. This is a very special video on the science of Atma or Brahma Vidya taught by one of the principal Upanishads, Isha Upanishad. Isha means God, Lord, who resides in the spiritual heart of every living being. So listen the teachings of Ishaopnishad. Om Puranmadah Puranmidam Puranat Purnam Muddachate Purnasya Purnam Madai Purnam Meva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Adaha, that is Brahma in its transcendental aspect. It is that because it is beyond thought and speech. Purnam, all embracing, infinite, idam, this, that is Brahma in its relative aspect. It is this because it is seen in the phenomenal world. Purnam, all embracing, infinite, Purnat, from the transcendental Brahma. Purnam, Brahma as this phenomenal world. Udachyate is derived, projected. Purnasya, if from the transcendental Brahma, Purnam, the relative Brahma, the phenomenal world, Adaya is taken away, that is rejected by the knowledge that it is unreal and only a superimpositional. Purnam eva sishyate, the infinite and all embracing Brahma remains infinite. In fact, Om Shanti, peace to the individuals, Shanti, peace to the planets, Shanti, peace to the animals. Invocation. Om, that Brahma is infinite. This phenomenal world is also infinite, but this is only a projection of that. Nevertheless, if this is taken away, that remains infinite as before. Om, peace to the individuals, peace to the planets, peace to the animals. The idea is that the phenomenal world has no independent existence. It exists only because it is supported by Brahma. It is only a superimposition on Brahma. Sometimes, if we walk along a road in the dark, we might mistake a rope for a snake. This delusion is possible because of the rope. When this delusion goes, there is no longer a snake. It has merged into the rope. Similarly, when we know Brahma, which is also our self, the world merges into it. Ishaopnishad. The word Upanishad does not refer to a book, it refers to knowledge, but this knowledge is not ordinary knowledge. It is knowledge of the highest order, that knowledge which gives you peace, happiness, and a sense of blessedness. In order to get that knowledge, you must go to a teacher who himself has that knowledge. If you are blind, you would not go to another blind man and ask him to lead you. In the same way, you would not go to a teacher who does not have the knowledge you are seeking. Then you must approach this teacher with great humility. He does not expect any money from you, but he does expect you to be humble and listen to him patiently. And he also expects that you will love and respect the truth he will be teaching you. You must have great yearning for that truth, and you should approach the teacher after you have gone through the prescribed moral and spiritual disciplines. The Isha Upanishad is so called because it starts with the word Isha. Isha means the Lord who is the inmost self of all. Unlike other Upanishads, the Isha is all in verse, and many people think it is the oldest and best of the Upanishads. It is found in the Shukla Yajurveda, though it forms a part of the Samhita section, which normally deals with the rituals. The Isha Upanishad concerns itself only with non dualistic knowledge and has nothing to do with rituals. As a rule, Upanishads bristle with disputes about knowledge and ignorance, the real and the unreal, and the one and the many. But the Isha Upanishad very succinctly resolve all these disputes. It shows how all that is relative finally dissolves into one absolute existence. This absolute is nameless and formless. In common usage, it is referred to as Brahma, the biggest, or the Paramatman, the cosmic self. This Brahma or Paramatman is the essence of our being and underlies all that exists. In names and forms, there is diversity, but in spirit, there is only one. The nature of this one and our relationship with it is the subject of inquiry of this Upanishad. Ath Ishaopnishad. Now, actual Upanishad starts with mantra number 1. Om Isha Vasham Idam Sarvam यत्किंच जगत्याम जगत तेन त्यक्तेन भुंजिथा मा गृदः कस्यस्वधनम्. Jagatayam, in this world, yat kimcha, whatever jagat, subject to change, perishable. Isha Vasham, covered by the Lord, Tena, therefore, Tyaktena, by renunciation, Bhujintha, nourish, that is, strengthen the consciousness that the Lord is everywhere and in everything. Kasha Sut Dhanam, anyone's health that is no wealth. Ma Girdaha, do not covet. In this changing world, everything is subject to change, yet everything is covered by the Lord. Practice renunciation and be strong in the consciousness of the self. Do not run after anyone's wealth. This world and everything in it is constantly changing, but that which sustains it is never changing. It is always the same. That is the Lord. On Him everything rests. It is like a movie projected on a screen. The movie changes, but the screen is constant. Similarly, the phenomenal world is projected on the Lord. It is a mere superimposition, like seeing a snake superimposed on a rope on a dark night. The snake has no independent existence. It exists because of the rope, and it ceases to exist as soon as a light is brought. The snake then dissolves into the rope. In the same way, when you know Brahma, the world merges into it, and you realize that you and Brahma are one and the same. To attain this knowledge is the goal of life. The world then cannot tempt you. Your contact with it is merely like that of a piece of sandalwood, which has long been under water and has thereby come to acquire a bad odor. For a while, the fragrance of the sandalwood is suppressed and the bad odor prevails. But if the sandalwood is rubbed a little, the bad odor disappears and the natural fragrance of the sandalwood becomes predominant. Similarly, your attachment to the world is temporary. It cannot be permanent. Think of yourself as Brahma, as pure consciousness. Think intensely and constantly in this way. The attachment you now have to the world will then go. But how can you attain the knowledge of Brahma? You can attain it by the practice of renunciation. You have to keep reminding yourself that the world with all its allurements is not real. That is, it is not real in the sense that it is transitory. Only Brahma is real because it is imperishable. You must renounce this world and concentrate on Brahma. Gold may be alluring, but it is transitory. You should never run after things that are ephemeral. Never covet someone else's wealth and never become attached to your own wealth. To one who knows that this world is transitory, wealth is not wealth, and any form of sense pleasure is repugnant. You must be concerned only with Brahma, become steeped in Brahma. Brahma alone is real, and you are that Brahma. Nurture this consciousness and become oblivious to everything else. Stanza or mantra number 2. कुर्वन्नेवेह कर्माणि जिजीविषेच्छतं समः एवं तव्यि नान्यथेतोऽस्ति न करं लिप्यते नरे कर्माणि कुर्वान् इव a man doing his work as prescribed by the scriptures iha here in this world satam samah 100 years Javishet may want to live. Even in this way, Tvai nare to you, O man, karmana lipyate. The fruits of your work will not attach themselves. Anyatha na asti. There is no other way. A man may wish to live for 100 years, performing his duties as prescribed by the scriptures. O man, if you do your duties in this way, then the results of whatever you do will not cling to you. There is no other way. The earlier mantra was a call to renounce. There is no point in running after the pleasures the world has to offer. These pleasures are momentary. If we run after them, we will only land ourselves in trouble, for the pleasures will soon be gone and we will suffer. But not everyone is in a position to renounce. The fact is that most people want to enjoy life, and this mantra addresses itself to such people. It tells them that there is no harm if they want to live a long life for say 100 years. They may live that long, but they must fulfill their desires strictly according to the rules laid down by the scriptures. This will slowly lead to the purification of the mind, that is, the hankering for sense pleasures will go. The spirit of discrimination will grow strong, and love for self knowledge will develop. When this happens, they will no longer be attached to the fruits of what they have been doing all their lives. The end result is that they will be ready for the life of renunciation. This is the only way for people who cannot immediately renounce. They need not feel lost. They can take time, but sooner or later they have to come to the path of renunciation. Till then, they must follow the path as defined here. Mantra 3. Asurya nam te loka andhen tamsa averta तांस्ते प्रत्याभिगच्छन्ति ये के चातं हनो जनः asuraha sunless fit for demons nama known as such andhena blind because devoid of self knowledge tamsa by darkness avartaha enveloped they such lokaha worlds plans of existence ye ke cha atam hana those who are devoid of self knowledge and are therefore like people who have committed suicide. Te parteya, they after their death, then those that is those words, abhiyachanti, enter are doomed to be in janaha people. There are worlds known to be sunless and fit for demons. They are enveloped in darkness, such as what the blind, that is, those devoid of self knowledge, experience. Those people who have neglected the attainment of self knowledge and have thus committed suicide, as it were, are doomed to enter those worlds after death. This is a condemnation of people who do not try to attain self knowledge. They are, in a real sense, committing suicide, for what can be worse than being a slave to sense enjoyment, completely oblivious of the real purpose of life, which is to be your own master. In order to be your own master, you have to realize that you are identical with Brahma, the cosmic self, that you are pure consciousness, ever free without name and form, and unconditioned. You are not subject to any modification without beginning and end, beyond thought and speech. Your existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. When you know this, you are free. You are no longer you no longer swing between birth and death. If you do not try to know who you really are, you are indeed committing suicide. You are inviting the ignominy of a slave's life in this world and a similarly unfortunate fate after death. Stanza number 4. अनेस्देकं मनसो जवीयो निन्देवा आपनुवन् पुरोमर्शतः तद्वावतो ज्ञानेतेति तिष्ठन्ति स्मि अन्नपो मातृक्ष्वादिधाति ekam one only one, that is Brahma, anejat, immobile, still, manso, javiyo, faster than the mind, devaha, the gods or the sense organs like the eyes, purnam arshat enat, this always ahead of others, na apnu one, cannot overtake, tat tisat, it is always still, always the same. Dhavtaha anyan, other who move fast. Ati eti, leaves behind. Tasmin, on this. Martrisva, air, life force. The Lord who dwells in space. Hiranyagarbha, that is the first manifestation of Brahma. Apaha, Tadhati, sports water, that is sports everything. Brahma is one without a second. It never moves, yet it goes faster than the mind. It is always ahead. The sense organs can never catch up with it. It is still, yet it defeats all in a race. By its power, the Lord who dwells in space upholds water and everything else in the phenomenal world. Brahma, the Self, is one without a second, complete in itself. It never moves, it is always still, always the same, yet it moves faster than the mind. It is the power that moves everything and it makes the whole world go the way it does. It gives power to the Lord of the universe, Matriswa, the Lord who dwells in space, who is responsible for the operation of the principle of cause and effect. There is no way of describing Brahma. It is beyond thought and speech. It is everywhere and in everything. It is formless, yet every form is its form. It is nameless, yet every name is its name. It is in fact unique. To emphasize this, the Upanishad makes contradictory statements. In one breath, the Upanishad says Brahma is still unaged, and in the next breath it says it goes faster than the mind. Manaso Javio. What does it mean by this? The answer is Brahma has two aspects. In one aspect, it is without attributes, nirguna. It is the absolute. It is pure consciousness, Suddha Chaitanya. It is then existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. It is the cosmic self, Paramatma. In another aspect, Brahma is with attributes, Saguna. It is then in its relative aspect. In this aspect, it may have a form and it may also have many qualities, good and bad, small and big, and so on. There are an infinite variety of such qualities. These, it should be remembered, are mere attributes, mere superimpositions, adhyasa. They cannot affect Brahma. They are like masks children wear. The mind itself is inert. It can function only when the self, that is the Atma, which is another name of Brahma, animates it. It cannot move faster than the self because it is the self that makes it move, and the self is everywhere. This also applies to all other organs called devas because they reveal of the body, and this applies to all of the elements in nature. It is the power that works behind the cause as well as behind the effect. Take the case of the air. When it is associated with the self, air is called the life force. But air by itself cannot sustain life. Air is also called Matriswa because it moves about Swa in space, Mantri, Matri. But it becomes active when it is associated with the cosmic self. It then becomes Hirane Garbha, the first manifestation of Brahma as an individual or Sutratma, the cosmic self of all, like the thread passing through a garland. It is in this aspect that Brahma controls every phenomenon in nature. From fear of it, fire burns. From fear of it, the sun shines. From fear of it, Indra and Vayu and death. The fifth run Katha Upanishad. Nothing can happen independent of Brahma, yet nothing affects it. The whole phenomenal world including everything in it, is derived from Brahma, is sustained by it, and in the end dissolved in it. Mantra 5. Tadejati Tannai Tadure Tidvantike Tadantarasya Sarvasya Tadu Sarvasyasya Bahyatah. Tat ejati, that is Brahma, moves. Tat na ejati, that does not move. Tat dure, that is far off. Tat yo antike, that is also near. Tat that. Asya sarvasya antaha, the inmost being of all. Tat yo, that again. Asya sarvasya Bahyata, that constitutes its outside also, that Brahma moves and it does not move. It is far off and it is also nearby. That Brahma is inside of this and is also its outside. This mantra illustrates how futile is to try to describe Brahma, which is without name and form, without anything distinctive that we can say about it. It is nothing and yet it is everything. It is nothing because it is beyond thought and speech. It is everything because it is all inclusive. Everything exists because of it, and it is the essence of everything. It is one and the same, but it appears diverse in terms of names and forms. These names and forms, however, are mere superimpositions. It is what it is, irrespective of everything. If it is unchanging and unchangeable, and it is never conditioned by anything, it is both immanent and transcendent. By itself, Brahma never moves. It never changes. It is always constant. Sometimes we see the moon moving behind some clouds, but actually the moon does not move. It is the clouds that are moving. In the same way, Brahma, the self, is always the same. It is never born and it never dies. Because it is associated with the body, it appears to be subject to birth and death. We wear a new coat, and when it gets old and torn, we throw it away. This is the relationship the coat has with the body. The same is the relationship the body has with the self. Mantra number 6. Yastu sarvani bhutanya anmev vanupashyati sarvabhutesu chatmanam tato ne vijogupste yatu, but he atmani eva, in himself, sarvani bhutani anupashyati, sees all beings, sarva bhutesu cha, and in all beings, atmanam anupashyati, sees himself, tataha, from that experience, na vijay gupsate, cannot hate anyone. He who sees everything in himself and himself in everything never hates anything. This is what is called samadrishtika, same-sightedness. All beings have a common self. Essentially, we are all one and we differ only in terms of names and forms, but these names and forms are a superimposition. They are not real and therefore are not part of our being. Names and forms are like a thin veil through which the real being within has to be seen. A boy may try to fool his friends by wearing different masks,
First, he wears the mask of a tiger and behaves like a tiger. Most of his friends are frightened. The next moment, he wears the mask of a monkey and jumps about like a real monkey. This time, his friends are amused. This goes on for a while, but finally, the boy puts aside his mask and appears as he is. The boys then know that he is one of their own. He had always been the same, but the mask made him look different. We are all one and the same. Brahma only the names and forms make us look different. This mantra urges us to see that we are all one in a sense. From Brahma down to a blade of grass, there is only one single entity. It is not a matter of parts joined together to make a whole. The self is homogeneous. If I if one if I hurt you, I hurt myself. We can only be happy when we are all happy. We are all one humans, animals, insects and plants. The goal of life is to realize this oneness of being. To feel one with all leaves no room for hatred or secrecy. There is only room for love. Mantra number 7. यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतानि मव भूदिवजानतः तत्र को मोह कै शोक एकत्व मनुपश्यत Yasmin, when or where, Atma Eva, the self only, Sarvani Bhutani, all beings, Abhut, have become, Tatra, then, Vijantaha, to one who knows this, Ekatvam Anupashyataha, seeing everywhere the same, Ka Moha, what attachment, Ka Sukaha, what sorrow. When a person knows that he himself has become everything and he knows the oneness of things, how can he hate or love anything? The true test of self knowledge is that you feel that you are one with all. You are everywhere and in everything. There is no two, there is only one, and that one is you yourself. This sense of unity is the highest goal of life. No doubt there is diversity at the empirical level, but it is you yourself who have become diverse by assuming diverse names and forms. That is not to say that you have changed, you still remain one and the same. When you have this feeling of oneness, there is no room for feelings of attachment and hatred and sorrow. Dualism, that is, seeing diversity, issues from ignorance with self knowledge, with the knowledge of oneness. This ignorance is totally uprooted. Stanza number 8. स प्रयज्ञाछु करम काम्यम वर्ण मसनाविवरम शुद्धम पाप विद्धम कविर्मनीषिः प्रभु स्वयंभू यार्थातयो अर्थान विधा अचितिभ्य समाभ्य सह पर्यागत he, that is the cosmic self, has penetrated everywhere. Sa Sukram, he is white bright. Akyam, without a form. Avranam, whole sound without a wound. Asnaviram, without sinews, that is without a physical body. Suddham, pure. Apar Pavidham, unblemished, that is, no trace of ignorance. Kavihi, wise, enlightened. Mamsi, all knowing, complete master of his mind. Prabhu, supreme, his place is above everyone else. Swambhu, of independent origin, not created, manifested by his own will. Sasvatbhu, Sambhu, eternally earthen, affairs, fruits of actions. Yathata yataha, vedhatat, dispensing justice to all according to their due. He, the Self, is all pervasive, radiant, without a form, without any defect, immaculate, untainted, all knowing, the master of his own mind, the best of all, of independent origin and eternal. He dispenses to each his due. Here, the discussion is on how peace can be obtained as long as there is a sense of dualism. Our relations, our relations with others are bound to be sometimes friendly and sometimes hostile. The ideal is to have a mind that accepts the whole world as its own, a mind that is as broad as the sky. It should be pure, bright, free, and all embracing. This is possible when we feel ourselves to be the self of all. Non dualism believes that this is the true nature of the self. Hit some otherwise, hit seems otherwise, it is because of some adventitious attribute. It is no part of its being. The self is purely a witness, not involved in any part of the phenomenal world. Yet the phenomenal world goes on only because of the self. It is like a lamp. A lamp gives light without which nothing good or bad can be seen. But the lamp is not affected by whatever way the light is used. The position of the self vis-a-vis the phenomenal world is like that. Mantra 9. Mantra 9. अंधं तमः प्रविशन्ति ये विद्यामुपासते ततो भूय इव ते तमो ये ओ विद्यायां रतः. Andham, blindness implicit in the ignorance of the self. Tamaha, darkness characterized by I and mine, egotism, vanity, etc. Parvisanti, enter, ye who avidyam upashate, mechanically perform sacrifices, tata bhuya iva, into deeper, tamaha, darkness, ya, you, he, vidyayam, Ratah, worship gods and goddesses, those who mechanically perform sacrifices. Avidya, go into a darkness that is like being blind, but those who merely worship gods and goddesses, Vidya, go into a deeper darkness. Blinding darkness here implies ignorance, and those who worship gods and goddesses go into a deeper darkness because they seek rewards for their worship. As long as there is the sense of I and mine within us, there can be no self knowledge. When you say me and mine, you automatically identify yourself with your body mind complex. This shows that you are ignorant of your real self, which is pure consciousness and which is also the self of all. The sign of an ignorant person is in the way he uses the words I and mine. He says, I am so and so, I own this much property, and so on. An ignorant person has many desires in his mind, and because of these desires, he is born again and again. He has to have a body, otherwise, he cannot satisfy his desires. But the more he tries to satisfy them, the more they grip his mind. This goes on endlessly, but it is given to a human being to think, reason, and discriminate. Thus, he soon comes to realize that the path he has been following cannot give him peace of mind. He understands that he has to choose another path, the path of renunciation. As long as he does not practice renunciation, he gropes in the dark like a blind man and he suffers. There are two types of such people who grope in the dark. One type worships avidya, ignorance, that is, they mechanically perform the prescribed sacrifices without any thought as to why they are doing them. No wonder they grope in the dark. They are doomed unless somebody the truth dawns on them. Someday the truth dawns on them that to save themselves they must seek their to seek self-knowledge. Worse, however, is the situation of the other type, those who worship Vidya. The word Vidya usually means knowledge, but here it is used to mean gods and goddesses. Some people worship gods and goddesses so that they may someday attain the same status. They may get their desires fulfilled, but this will only delay their liberation. That is why the Upanishad says that they will be in deeper darkness. Mantra thus Anne Deva Hu Vidya Hurvidya iti Susrum Dhiranam Ye Nast Div Chachaksire Anyat different Eva nothing but Ahu say, that is, scholars say, Vidyaya by worshipping deities. Anyat different, Ahu say, Avidyaya by performing sacrifices, that is, Agnihotra and other sacrifices. Naha tat vichas chaksire. They told us, ye those, iti susruma. This we heard. Dhranam from wise men, Dhiranam from wise men. Scholars say that the path of avidya, performing Agnihotra and other sacrifices, and the path of Vidya, worshipping gods and goddesses, produce different results. Wise men confirm this. Vidya and avidya both are hindrances to self knowledge, but Vidya is even worse than avidya. The word Vidya is used here in a special sense. Here it means worshipping God and goddesses. By worshipping God and goddesses, you will go after death to the world after gods and goddesses. But will that help you? The time you spend there is wasted because if you were not there, you could have spent that time moving forward towards self knowledge, which is your goal. In the world of gods and goddesses, you cannot do that, and thus you go deeper and deeper into darkness. Avidya is karma and therefore a hindrance. You perform avidya, that is, you perform Agnihotra and other sacrifices. That this is a roundabout way of purifying the mind, and it is also groping in the dark, but it
It may not have as heavy a toll on your time and energy as the other. The final advice by Sanikara is combine both work and worship together. They may quicken your pace towards self knowledge because it will lead to chitta shuddhi, purification of the mind. When this happens, your desire for enjoyments will become less and your sense of I and mine will subside. This is the way to karma mukti, gradual or progressive liberation according to Sanikara. Stanza number 11, mantra 11. विद्यां च अविद्यां च यस्ते द्वे भूयं सः अविद्यया मृत्युं तीर्त्वा विद्या मृतमनुष्यते मश्नुते या हि विद्यायां च अविद्यायां च विद्या and avidya both tat abhyam saha veda knows, that is practices both avidyaya by avidyaya mrityum tirtva overcoming death vidyaya by vidya amartyam asnute attains immortality. He who worships God and goddesses Vidya and also performs sacrifices avidya attains immortality by sacrifices avidya and attains bliss by worshipping God and goddesses Vidya. The condition in both cases, worshipping God and goddesses and performing sacrifices, is that the person should have no motive for personal gain. He should not desire the fruits of his actions, such as going to the heaven of God and goddesses. As earlier explained, the word Vidya has a special meaning here. It means worship of God, gods and goddesses. Similarly, avidya also has a special meaning. It is known that is performing Agnihotra and other sacrifices. Such karmas are obligatory, but if they are done without any attachment to their fruits, they help purify the mind. Combining karma and worship is a path to gradual liberation. Sankara approves this for those who are not yet ready to renounce. But suppose you but suppose you follow the two paths separately. If you perform avidya, you will go to Pitraloka, the world of your ancestors. This is a dark region because it is far removed from self knowledge. In fact, you will have to wait a long time to attain self knowledge. But if you worship Vidya, that is gods and goddesses, you go into still darker regions and your attainment of self knowledge is even further delayed. True, you go to Devaloka, the heaven of gods and goddesses, but you are caught in the pleasures there and you remain there until the fruits of your worship are fully exhausted. You are then reborn as a human being and your struggle resumed from where you left off. This is why Vidya is considered worse. But if you combine the two, that is, perform the obligatory karmas without any attachment to the fruits, and at the same time worship God and goddesses again without any desire to go to heaven, then you can get the benefit of both liberation and bliss. For those who are not yet ready to renounce, this path is recommended. Stanza number 12. अंधं तमः प्रविशन्ति ये सम्भूतिमुपास्ते ततो भूय एव ते तमो ये ओ सम्भूत्यां रतः.
Ye asambhutim upashate, those who worship the unmanifested, andham tamaha parvishanti, enter a dark region where they are totally blind. Ye yo sambhutam rataha, those who are preoccupied with the manifested. Tataha bhuyaha iva te tamaha, enter into deeper darkness. Those who worship the unmanifested, the causal state of the world, go into a darkness that is like being blind. But those who worship the manifested, the world as see around us, go into a deeper darkness. Asambhuti, unmanifested, Sambhuti, manifested. Indian philosophy does not believe in creation. It does not agree that something can be created out of nothing. There must be a cause before there can be an effect. The cause may not be seen, but it must have existed at some time. For instance, there is a big banyan tree before you. Where did it come from? It comes from a seed lying underground. The seed was lying there unseen, but it was there all the same. It cannot be said that it did not exist. The tree was in the seed, lying unmanifested, and now it has become manifested. All we see around us, the plants, the vast sky, the mountains, rivers, plains, forests, human beings, animals, etc., all were at one time unmanifested. They were a part of Asambhuti. Asambhuti is the same as Prakriti, nature, and it is a state where all the forces are in harmony with each other. Indian philosophy gives the names Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas to the three forces so long as there is harmony among these three forces. There is no manifestation. It is difficult to describe what exists. It is unspecified existence. Like an ocean without ripples, it is infinite, unvarying oneness. But somehow or other, at a certain point, the harmony is disturbed. Why it is disturbed, no one knows. It is perhaps in the very nature of things that this disharmony should take place. This is the starting point of Sambhuti, manifestation. The one becomes many. The many was in the one and it is then becomes manifest. Its first manifestation is called Hirane Garbha or the firstborn. Whether you worship Asambhuti or Sambhuti, the result is the same. You are groping in the dark. You may know nothing about Asambhuti, yet you may worship it anyway. Perhaps you worship it out of fear or from the expectation of getting something you desire. In either case, you are blind and helpless, and you are constantly afraid of the unknown. You are worse off, however, when you worship Sambhuti, the manifested world. There are things in it that frighten you, and there are also things that tempt you. Either way, the result is not good. You are a helpless slave. To emphasize this, your condition is described as being in greater darkness. But Vedanta tells you to look inside yourself. Yourself is supreme. So long as you are a slave to anything outside yourself, you can never be happy. Vedanta tells you to be your own master. Mantra Tera Anne Devahu Sambhava Anne Dahur Sambhavat iti susrum dhiranam ye nast divichachkside. Sambhavata from Sambhuti, that is from manifested nature. From Hirane Garbha, Anyat Iva different, that is different results. Ahu results say Asambhavati from Asambhuti, that is from unmanifested nature. Anyat different, a different kind of result. Ahu this also scholars say ye those Nah tat vichachaksire. They told us iti susruma. This we heard. Dhiranam from wise men. Scholars say that the worship of Sambhuti, Hiranyagarbha and Sambhuti Prakriti produce different results. Wise men confirm this. Earlier, Sankara pointed out the futility of worshipping nature, manifested and unmanifested. By worshipping manifested nature, Hiranyagarbha, you might at best acquire some extraordinary powers. What nature does it breathtaking? By worshipping her, you can perhaps do some of the same things she does, that is all. But if you worship unmanifested nature, you also become unmanifested, you become one with her. What you worship, you become. This is the common belief. मंत्र 14 संभूतिं च विनाशं च यस्तदेवे दोभ्यं सह विनाशेन मर्त्युं तीर्त्वा संभूत्या मृतमश्नुते संभूतिं च vinasam cha unmanifested nature and manifested nature, that is hiranyagarbha. Yah tat ubhagam saha veda, who knows them both. Vinasena, by worshipping the manifested Hiranyagarbha, Mrityum, death, ignorance, moral weakness, etc. Tirtva, overcoming, Asambhuta, worshipping the unmanifested nature, Amritam, immortality, Asnuti, attains. He who worships the unmanifested Asambhuti and also the manifested Sambhuti attains immortality by the unmanifested Sambhuti and conquers death by the manifested Sambhuti. Thus, first Sambhuti should actually read Asambhuti, that is the unmanifested. The A is missing from the sake of the meter. Vinasa, death, is Hiranyagarbha, who is the first manifestation of Sambhuti. Hiranyagarbha is so called because he will someday go into dissolution. That which is manifested may also be unmanifested. The ultimate reality too can be both manifested and unmanifested. We should remember that reality is one and the same, whether manifested or unmanifested. If we start by worshipping the manifested, that is Sambhuti or Hiranyagarbha, we may attain supernatural powers. Modern science is proof of that man can do. We certainly can overcome many limitations of life. We can even overcome the fear of death. If we worship Hiranyagarbha, we will be like him. Hiranyagarbha is subject to death because everything that comes into being will someday cease to be. This will teach us that death is not the end, it merely means a change of form. When we realize this, we will have a sense of immortality, and in this way, we conquer death. We should love to worship the unmanifested. Also, when we learn to love the unmanifested, we become one with it. The unmanifested is nature, and nature is eternal. Thus, we also become eternal. Sambhuti and Asambhuti become both way both may give us a sense of eternity, but that is relative eternity. Real eternity is possible only through self knowledge. Vidya and avidya, sambhuti and asambhuti, all these are within the parameter of ignorance. They may give us a sense of freedom for a while, but no permanent freedom. We are still within the clutches of karma. Mantra 15 हिरण्येन पात्रेण सत्यास्या पिहितं मुखं तत्त्वं पुरुषं पावरन् सत्यधर्माय दृष्टये Pushanna, O Sun, sustainer of the world, Hiranyena Patrena, by the shining disk, Satyasa, Mukammam, Afitam, Apihitam, the face of the truth is covered. Tvam Tat Aparvanu, please remove it. Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye, so that I, a seeker of truth, may see it. The face of truth is hidden by a shining disk. O Sun, the sustainer of life and everything in this world, please remove the disk so that I, a seeker of truth, may see it. The Sun is personified here. He sustains everything. He is the source of life, the source of everything. He himself is bright and he also makes everything else bright. His brightness is such that it dazzles of our eyes. The Upanishad says there is a truth behind the sun, and this truth is no other than Brahma. All of us are seeking the truth, seeking Brahma, but we cannot see it because of the dazzling light of the sun. It is as if a bright golden disk is covering the truth. We pray to the sun that he may be pleased to remove the disk so that we may see the face of Brahma, that is, that we may see the truth. All sense objects are thus covered, as if they have a golden disk over them, and that is why we feel drawn towards them. These objects are not real, but they appear to be real. As a rope appears to be a snake in a dark place, when a light is brought, we see the rope as it is. Similarly, we need light to see the reality. We need knowledge so that we can distinguish the real from the unreal. The world as we see it is not real. It is not real in the sense that it is constantly changing and is transitory. That which is real never changes. It is always the same and it is imperishable. Brahma alone is real and the self which is the self of all is that Brahma. Out of ignorance we take transitory things to be permanent and cling to them. Sooner or later, however, those things perish and then we lament. We make this mistake because these things look so attractive. They appear to be covered with gold, but it is not real gold. Thus the Upanishad says this earnest prayer that truth may reveal itself to us so that we may not be misled by worthless ephemeral things. The sun is light and light is knowledge. Knowledge is truth and truth is knowledge. मंत्र 16 प्रसन्न कर से यम सूर्य प्राजापत्य है व्युः रश्मिन् समूह तेज है यत्ते रूपम कल्याणतमं तत्ते पश्यामि यो सावस्सो पुरुषः सोऽहमस्मि Pushan, O Sun, O nourisher of the world, Ekarse, O lone traveler, Yama, O guide along the path of truth and righteousness, Surya, O sun, Parjapatya, O son of Parjapati, the Lord of all beings, Rasmin, Vyuha, gather your rays, Samuha Teja, withdraw your light, Yat Te, so that your Kalyantamam Rupam, most gracious form, Te Tat Pasyamai, I can see, Ya asau asa purusvah, that person. Sa aham asmi, I am that. O nourisher, solitary traveler and guide, O son, son of Prajapati, please gather your rays, withdraw your light. I want to see your most beautiful form. There is that Purusha within you. I am that Purusha, that person. The sun is the nourisher of all, and he is a solitary traveler. That is, he is self sufficient. He is also called Yama because he controls everything. Prajapati is the lord of all beings, and the sun is his child. The sun's rays are scattered all over the world. This verse requests him to gather his rays in a little, so you are too bright for my eyes. Please dim your light for my sake. You can be most beautiful and gracious. I want to see you so. It is not that I am begging. I know I do not have to. For there is someone presiding over your domain, and I feel I am he. The sun is the symbol of Brahma. At first you worship the sun as a deity, you are tremendously impressed by his power and beauty. You begin by asking for a fraction of all he has. Later, however, you discover that you and he are one and the same. This revelation takes place after years of self restraint, renunciation, and meditation. Stanza number 17 वायुर्निर्मृतमेधं भस्मातं शरीरम् ॐ कीर्तो समर कीर्तं समर कीर्तो समर कीर्तं समर Atha, therefore, that is now that my death is at hand. View my individual life force, Amartam Neelam, cosmic life force, that is, may my individual life force merge with the cosmic life force. Idam Sarvam Bhasmantam, may this gross body be reduced to ashes, that is, may fire consume it. Om, remembering Brahman Karte, O mind, Samra, remember Kartam, Samar, remember all you have done during the years of your life. Krato, Samar, Kartam, Samar, remember again and again. Now that death is coming, I pray that my life force may merge with the cosmic life force. Let this body be consigned to fire and reduced to ashes. Mind, think of all I have done throughout my life. Think of my deeds again and again. Many thoughts crowd into our minds as we die, and these thoughts reflect the kind of life we have lived. But at the time, a special effort should be made to think only of good things. What we think we become. We are the byproduct of our thoughts. This is why we tell our minds again and again to think good thoughts, and this is why relatives also hold special prayers at the time of our death. मंत्र 18 अग्नि अग्नि ने सुप्ता राय असमान विश्वानि देव वयुनानि विद्वान युयुध्ये समुज्झोराण मनु भूयष्ठाम ते नमक्तिम विधेम Agni, O fire ray, in order that we may get good results of our actions. Asman Supata Nyaya, lead us to all that is good. Deva, O God, Viswani, Vayunani, Vidwan, you know all that passes through our minds and all that we do. Asmat from us, Juhurnam, Enaha, all the bad things we have done. Buddhi, remove that te to you. Bhiyustham namaha yuktam vidham. O fire, in order that good things may come to us, please lead us along with the right path. O God, you know everything we do and think. Please remove all evil from within us. We salute you again and again. This is a prayer to fire to lead us to Brahma. At the same time of death, the gross body is consumed by fire, but the subtle body remains. The subtle body consists of 17 parts, the 5 branches of life force, prana, the 5 organs of perception, jivin, Gyanendriya, the 5 organs of action, karmendriya, the mind, manas, and the intellect, buddhi. All of these are material but in a very fine form. The mind retains all the impressions of what we have done and thought. Then we die. Our individual self leaves the gross body, but it remains in its subtle body. Depending upon its karma, the fruits of action, the soul will then go to either of the two lokas, worlds, Pitraloka, the world of ancestors, or Devaloka, the world of the gods and goddesses. Our karma also determines how long our stay in one of these worlds will last. Then the soul is reborn in this world, for its desires are still unfulfilled. Thus, the soul keeps moving back and forth between death and life until it realizes the futility of this exercise and turns to the path of renunciation. It is only renunciation that can pave the way to liberation, and this process culminates when the individual self merges with the cosmic self. Iti Ishaopnishad. Iti. So this Upanishad is completed. ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ओम शांति शांति शांति. Om, that Brahma is infinite, this phenomenal world is also infinite, but this is only a projection of that. Nevertheless, if this is taken away, that remains infinite as therefore. Om, peace to the individuals, peace to the planets, peace to the animals. So, my dear friends, this video is completed. Thank you for watching this video. Namaskar. Thank you.